I'm Nick Hetty, and you're watching PackSafe Live.
Core values are not aspirational. Core values is who your company is.
Always be in a hiring process for when the right person comes along. And nearly every single time, the business has shown up because the right person was already there.
The best things that I am highly encouraging of is having an MSA with very clear language in terms of where your liability lies. Take an opportunity in these quarterlies to say, gosh, if we did everything right, what does a quarter from now look like?
Hey everybody, welcome to Technically Unraveled. Thank you for taking the time today. It's good to see you. We've got a ton of things coming to you here soon, so you don't want to miss out. There's a couple things that are new that I really wanted to just kind of pick your brain on. They're worried about the risks. What are they taking on? We have so much fun doing this show.
My wife and I actually won a dance contest.
We've got to have a dance-off on PackSafe Live. I think that's what we need to get going.
Digital transformations are changing our view of what's possible, what we can accomplish, and how far we can go. In the PackSafe marketplace of the future, AI helps illuminate new opportunities, and your whole portfolio is within reach. You can go to market faster, work more efficiently, and accelerate your success, all with an intuitive interface designed to scale as you scale. Infinite growth is possible in the new PackSafe marketplace.
What's happening, everybody? It was a sweet new show intro. I actually didn't get to see it in advance, so I just saw it for the first time, so I was excited to see that. But welcome to the game on PackSafe Live, the show where we talk about all the cybersecurity shenanigans you need to be aware of. The first episode on Wednesday, and we're changing things up. You're going to experience a different kind of game. So to start that, let me bring in Matt, and later we're going to bring in Xavier from Blackpoint. We're going to get really nerdy on the game now. So, Matt, come on in. Let's talk for a minute about what we're doing here now.
Man, I am so excited to be back. First off, what a dope new intro. Thank you, creative team and studios team. Yeah. You guys are amazing. That was awesome. Too much pink jacket, maybe? Maybe a smidge too much pink jacket? No, maybe just the right amount of pink jacket.
Yeah.
So, Dom and I had this, idea to reinvent this show and bring this way more back to what makes us happy in our hearts. Right, Dom? What are your thoughts on the new format, and how'd you like our break and our switch to Wednesday?
Yeah, well, I think the switch to Wednesday was needed because, as I said in the moving van, I was not hella fresh Friday. It was beer o'clock, and it is not currently beer o'clock, although I am in Seattle. Won't be long. But, I think between Fridays being tough and we just kind of wanted to do things a little differently. We wanted to get more nerdy like we used to, right? And so it was a good time. That's why you didn't see us for a few weeks. We've been kind of reimagining what the show is.
Yeah, and we hope we bring value from it. The other thing I wanted to call out is we really wanted to bring this to be one valuable thing right at the beginning of the show. We cut out the news. We brought this back to just literally, let's talk about the topic. Let's talk about what we hope you get out of this. And so we want you to hold us to that and let us know if you're getting value out of the show. But yeah, I'm excited to be back. What did you do on your break? Give us ideas, quick, Dom? Because we're
getting real tactical and real nerdy on this show. So if there's a concept if you want to see a red team thing or a blue team thing, maybe a little purple team action, tell us. We want to actually show real technologies and use our connections to bring people on the show that can show you really cool shit. Like Javier, like Mero, who we had right before the break. But what did I do with my break? Well, I enjoyed my Fridays. That was actually quite nice. Wrap up,
Me too.
My day job for the week on Fridays. It was great. And then, man, I think it was just getting ready for Beyond. How about you?
You said day jobs, right? And what's funny is Robin Harris has a day job and she manages compliance. But what's interesting is she has a side gig where she makes her own tracks. And so we actually have Robin Harris introducing Robin Harris with her own introduction music. And let's go ahead and level up real quick before we get into our topic.
Level up. Level up. Level up.
Let's talk about how to use the ISO standards to level up our security game. And a lot of people may not realize this, but you can purchase a standard and use it as a roadmap for your internal operations without ever going for a certification level, right? And so that's what I want to suggest. Now, there's ISO 27017, and it's the 2015 version. It's for cloud-based businesses. It's an interesting standard because you cannot get that standard as an isolated certification. It's an add-on to the ISO 27001. In fact, you could consider it to be a kind of a clarification because they did add a cloud control into the new standard. But the important thing that people that deal with cloud applications or you provide them as a SaaS provider is to really get clear about what your responsibilities are versus what the customer's responsibility is. Because when those get muddled and confused, that's sort of like a recipe for a disaster. And here's what I mean by that. Imagine that you're assuming your cloud provider handles all of these security controls. But in reality, they only handle a certain segment of controls. This is true if you're dealing with AWS, Google, any of these providers, or you may be a provider. You could be an MSP that offers certain things to your customers. You're only handling a certain segment of the controls. And in audit speak, we say those controls are carved out. And what the auditors will do is they will take that provider's SOC 2 or ISO and use that to cover those controls. But there are going to be some controls that rest with the customer. So any of us that are doing business in the cloud, whether we're doing Azure or AWS, they're very clear. Here's where we stop. You must pick up after that. And if you're not really clear on what that means for your business model, you could be leaving some security controls unimplemented. They're just not there. You're assuming it's handled over here by the provider, but it's not. And I'll give you an example. A lot of times I'll see people say, well, we use this particular product and they handle the DR. Does that DR meet your needs? Because you may find that they may say they're going to be available in 48 hours. 48 hours of downtime could just destroy your business. So you may need to supplement those controls that they have in place so that your business needs are met. But if you haven't taken the time to really understand what they do versus what you're supposed to do, you're going to have some gaps. And there are so many things in the cloud where, as the customer, you have to take action. You have to handle certain levels of configuration security. You have to handle how your access is managed. You have to make sure you turn on multi-factor authentication. You have to make sure you're encrypting your S3 buckets. Because the provider's not going to do that for you. They give you the tools. They even give you tools for monitoring the security of your environment. But guess what? If you don't turn those tools on, nothing's happening. So I would suggest if you can get a copy of the 27017, get a copy and look at it, because it basically stands up the provider's responsibility, customer's responsibility. And it just goes down a list. There's not that many controls. And another thing is, if you are providing SaaS services or cloud services to your clients, You want to have something similar in place. You want your customers to know, hey, customer, these are your responsibilities over here, and this is what we handle. You don't want any gray areas. You don't want there to be any confusion, because the last thing you want to have happen is something goes wrong with the customer, like they have a breach or something, or an incident, and then they discover, oh, I've got a real problem because you weren't covering it and I wasn't covering it. So have those conversations. They're not really conversations. They should be documented communications that are very explicit. Here's what we do. Here's what we expect you to do. So that's some considerations for operating in the cloud securely.
Level up. Had to level up. Level up.
Man. All right. So let's keep this thing right on point. Thank you, Robin Harris. That's brilliant. And I got that stuck in my head now.
I'm gonna take us off track for just a second.
Okay.
So first of all,
go,
the track is dope. It's a great track. We were talking offline how we need to get Walsh and Robin in the same room to produce content. So if y'all could help us, put it in the comments so we can make it happen. But I want to point out that you said there's a clear delineation between like your cloud provider's responsibility and yours. And you and I and X and Robin know that, but do you know that? Right? The audience, like the average Azure consumer, do you know where that demarcation line is? And there's some work to be done there, but something to think about. Anyways, it's not stealing any more time from X. Welcome onto the show.
Welcome to the show. Here's what we're going to talk about today. I want to start each show by this. We are here to talk about getting hit in the face with your own hammer, right? At the end of the day, my grandfather used to have a statement that he would say. He says, there's never a fair fight. And he said, don't jump me in a rock pile. Why, Papa? Well, because I'm sure as shit to throw a rock at you, right? And the point is this understanding of threat actors are pivoting to this understanding that there are rocks laying around, that there are things that you have left as gaps that are not being dealt with. And why would I go down the malware path when I can go down the path of easily doing things that give me control and access? And so our goal today is to talk about living off the land to some extent. And then our what do we hope you get out of this is clear things to take away and do to help reduce some of that attack surface for you in that regard. So is that a fair statement is what we're doing here? And after that, we'll get the introduction over to X. Why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, thank you for inviting me onto the podcast. Very excited to be on and talking. And, you know, I like your new visions and getting all technical. It's right down my alley, so I appreciate it. So I'm Xavier Salinas, Chief Innovation Officer at Blackpoint Cyber. Been there for 9 years now, really since, you know, me and CEO John, if you know, I'm kind of had an idea of like, let's catch some hackers. All the way until now, you know, I scaled the SOC. I was CTO for 2 years, just kind of getting product and engineering right, getting it out, and figuring out where we can go with detections and kind of moving the puck forward there. And now I'm more in a role just to kind of think on the innovation and the strategy on how we can kind of make sure we're staying with the product in line with catching hackers moving on. So
one of the nice things about being a thought leader and a visionary and somebody that's in strategy, and I used to say this all the time, Dom, is nobody knows you're an idiot for like 3 years. It's perfect, right? Like I can time frame. It's great. Yeah. But in this case, that's not what happened. Right? It's not what happened. In X's case, 2 years ago, let's cut to this video. 2 years ago, X was predicting that we'd be punched in the face with our own tools and that those tools might be used to install us. And so let's cut back to that video from 2 years ago where you were a soothsayer in this.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, why not? When AnyDesk and TeamViewer and all those AMI admin get caught up, you know, just put a terror on there pretty much. Yeah. Or any RMM. I should just say about
and they're whitelisted, right? I mean, that's,
you can put Screen Connect on there.
I mean, they're not going to get alerted on by your AV or your endpoint.
Exactly.
This might be a little predictive, but X, I think that's exactly what's going on right now. So why don't you kind of help share us what your thoughts are on this, and let's cut to your slides, brother.
Yeah, exactly. Now, to kind of set this up too is like, you know, I saw these tools coming in, you know, I don't know when we started our SOC 4 or 5 years ago by now. I didn't know what MSP tools really were. At the time, I come from kind of the private sectors, doing more managing SOCs and NOCs for just one network, right? And then I get in, we make this cybersecurity program, we scale it, we start selling really well to MSPs, and I start seeing all these tools they're using. I'm like, holy moly, what's the difference between Cobalt Strike and Screen Connect? Not too much. Kind of blew my mind for a second. I was like, what the heck? And so, it was kind of an inevitable thing to happen. I used to always talk to John about it. Man, that's the worst thing that could happen right now. That and one of these getting breached. So I didn't say that 2 years ago.
That was on your bingo card. There's a couple in the last year even,
right.
actually, slash and grab.
So
yeah.
I gotta stop saying things like that from what I found out here.
You're the one that causes it. Is the prediction?
I'm the one that's caused it.
I feel it.
Yeah, but
all right, we got a quick solve to that. We're gonna need to do a little wet work, but yeah, we'll probably be okay. No, I tease.
We'll do that one. So so speaking on that, so getting started here, I wanted to kind of get away with the theme that we have going on here, which is getting hit with your own hammer. A lot of people say live off the land techniques. A lot of those like lol bins and everything going on, PowerShell, command.exe, dorking
GTFO
side loading deals, GTFO open or whatever it is, onto those ones. Like those are legit tactics, and they've been legit for a long time, and unfortunately they still work. I can tell you to this day.
Yep.
But now we're getting into the whole thing where it's kind of like living off your own tools too, right? Now we're starting to see people using more getting into these open source RMMs, or even using current RMM tools. And like I said, when I was talking about with the screen.
And why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? And you said that before. Why are they using tools like that are commercially available off the shelf, X?
That's a great one. Because the detection rate's very low. You got to think about this when you're an antivirus and you're inspecting a device. Like, you can't say every single RMM is bad because billions of computers are using them. They have to be categorized as good. And it's kind of more in that gray area side of things, because they can't create too much friction, by keep blocking these types of tools. So
sure.
And also, I think the second part is it lowers the barrier of entry into actually becoming a hacker. Yeah, we'll say. Onto that one, and that's also how it's become very popular too, because anyone can go out and get these tools and package them all together. And I will show it later. Anyone can do that, even myself.
There will be demos in this new version of the reboot, always. Yep.
Yeah. So that's really what I wanted to kind of show off here is it's not even just the binaries, your endpoint things. It's your tools now that are getting kind of co-opted per se. Now, starting this off, why are they doing this, right? How are they even getting these tools onto machines? And like I said, the barrier to entry being really low. One of the big tactics that's used is called malvertising. Now, malvertising is using malicious ads. Like I even saw, like I should have brought up my Google Ads account. I should have done that one. You can, for $1.50 a day, I can get my ad in front of I think it was 200 clicks of keywords that I put into Google. Now you guys think about that.
And they can be really targeted, right? Like in my mind, when you brought this up, I'm doing the hackening right now, right? And when I'm thinking about that, for $1.50, it means I could send an ad that I know Dom Kirby's going to click, right? It's got something about purple platypuses in it. It's got something about that sweet Starbucks drink he always wants. And so I'm able to target that very specifically to what Dom needs for that. And so what blows my mind is that people are still surprised that you can go pay to deliver something to someone like this, that you can go pay to deliver a very targeted link that's not very well checked. Nobody's doing any validation to make sure this brand new website that someone just stood up isn't a bad site, right? Look at this trysophos.store down on the bottom of this link, right? Exactly.
These are examples of ones, or Blender TAC S. These aren't real website. Well, they're real websites, but they aren't real.
They aren't the real product. Yeah, they aren't.
Right. They ain't the real product, right? Yeah. Like I said, the tactic does it exploits the user's trust in legitimate brand websites. That's the whole point of it, and it still happens to this day. I mean, I bet you people who are watching this on VOD or now or live have experienced someone clicking on something weird, thinking it's.
I'm sure.
It's also worth noting. And it's also worth noting that it's not hard to replicate a brand page, right? You just curl the HTML and you stand it up on your own. It's not hard to copy sophos.com. This is very, very entry level work.
As we go to OBS, right?
As we go to my first example. So getting ready for this podcast. It's been a little while. I had to get my OBS updated and everything. I was like, you know what? Is there any type of people trying to find fake OBSs out there? And any of these websites still live? Because I've heard of the tactic before. Didn't take me long to find one. I blurred out the rest of the URL, but it was OBS project and then a letter.com. This is the fake OBS website. But
if you're buying those on Cloudflare, they're $9, right? You can spin up a website for $9. You can get them super cheap. Yeah, sorry, continue.
And that's a good side note too, because well, I have seen time and time again where all the hackers are now putting everything behind Cloudflare. Now,
that's
great
what I
tactic
do.
because then all the URL scanners can't scan it because they're bots.
Yeah.
So it really lowers the way of the automated scanning on it. I was like, oh my, it happens all the time.
If there's one takeaway, if you want to be a more effective red teamer, use Cloudflare. So don't miss that part.
Yes.
I actually literally just stood up my Chasm server. My Plex track access comes through there. Like all those things.
There you go.
Or just behind my Cloudflare. I mean, perhaps I've said too much. I digress. Yes. Continue.
Yeah. Again, here we go.
Not a bad call.
Here we go. Here's the next clip for 2 years later, right?
Yeah, 100%. That will be it. Let's go back to that 2 years from now, me. Right here. This clip section.
Everyone use Cloudflare. But you can even see, too, like, again, even going further than exploiting the trust in OBS, you can see the links exploiting the trust and people have in things in Amazon's S3.
Yeah, 100%.
This is not
but they have
OBS's
a SOC too.
Amazon S3. But they have a SOC too.
Yeah, but they have a SOC too, and so we're good. There's no security risk because they have a SOC too.
Going back to the Azure question earlier, they have a SOC too. It's
yeah, exactly.
Nothing going on.
Harris.
Yeah, so if we wanted to take any guess onto this one, and is it malicious or not? It is malicious. It's a actual.
No.
I downloaded it, uploaded it to a sandbox. I was pretty sure it was malicious. The link, was not flagged anywhere. The actual thing,
right.
0 out of 93 bars total. It's all fine. Everyone can browse there. But yeah, if you install it, the good news is it does install OBS. So,
when did you put?
If you were bad news along with that, it installs the Redline info stealer and steals every one of your passwords.
And that's the critical point here, right? And I've got a good friend of mine that looks at those type of programs. We'll get to that in a second. But to your point, for the end user, they got OBS. That's a part of that's part of the obfuscation. Right, that's part of what it does to hide is by actually executing that OBS, and then side to that in its install script installs other things. And you've seen this as practitioners, right? You ever installed? In fact, there was an old EDR that used to do this, right? You had to install it, and it would launch multiple MSIs back to back to back to back to back. Those are all happening so that it can launch those to get each of the components, and that's done by just kind of packaging those together in a deployment methodology. And so, continue there.
Absolutely. So going on, so it's installing Redline, and I said, and again, going back to what Matt said, user has no indication that something bad happened, right? You get OBS, it comes up, oh, we're all happy and stuff, but in the background, what is these malvertisers doing? What are info stealers? What is Redline? Well, here's an example of someone selling Redline, because it's a piece of malware that you can just buy off the dark web. It's like $200. Probably in Bitcoin, so you got to add the $25,000 transfer fees on top of that. But anyways,
it's gotten expensive.
Yeah, I know, man. Yeah, that's what. As soon as I found out what it cost to transfer Bitcoin, I was like, when I found out what it cost to transfer Bitcoin, I was like, this is never going to work. unless you're collecting ransomware payments. But anyways, so what do they do when you install that? So what happened on that person's computer on lovely, we'll say Janice, that installed OBS because they have a podcast coming up and they didn't know they didn't have it on their computer. So what's doing is it's actually pilfering your machine, right? It's taking all your login passwords. One of the worst parts it's going to take your cookies, right? That's bad.
Which
cookies
is big.
are post authentication. You got to remember that.
Let's dig into that for just a second. When you think about it this way, when I go into the driver's license and I say my name is Dom Kirby, here's my birth certificate, here's my social security number, here's my card, here's my proof of address, here's all this stuff, and they issue me a license, I can go now vote, I can go now buy beer because I've abused that post-authentication creation of that identity. Now, I'm summarizing that a lot, but my point is, those cookies, to anybody out there, when I steal that cookie, I can just go use Cookie Editor. By the way, there are like 97 cookie editors that are actually malicious and 1 or 2 that aren't. So like even going to get your cookie editor, have fun with that. Yeah, have fun with that. But the point is, you can use Cookie Editor to then import. Those who get Redline doing it. But you can import that cookie and then be you. When people go, I don't know how they got past my MFA, they might have just harvested your token and replayed it. So anyways, just don't want to harp on that too little.
And regardless of the authentication, because I saw this question come up on Reddit where it's like, if I authenticate with FIDO, am I safe? And the answer is no. Like the FIDO is protecting the actual authentication action, but it's still giving you a replayable token at the end of the day, unless you're using
That's right. The token afterwards. Now you're right. The FIDO would not be allowed to be done in that man-in-the-middle attack or AITM. Right. But if I steal that token and go use it, it's going to be for whatever its session lifetime is, comma, space, context analysis, continuous analysis, all those things. But yeah, continue.
Correct. Yeah. If you ever go to a website and you've been logged in for years, that's also bad because that means there's no lifetime on that that token or cookie.
Amen.
I've seen that too. I'm like, how am I still logged into this? Yeah, there's the one check we're still logged into that system that you put your password into once. That's not good. But outside of that, it also will look for FTP credentials, anything it can find, know. And the reason that they're doing this is because this is the initial access that they use to sell to ransomware operators. A lot of these are in cahoots. So they'll say, hey, oh man, I bought Redline, I got OBS, I paid my $1.50, got 100 people to click, and then someone from ExxonMobil clicked it and installed it. Oh, you hit a gold mine there. You're selling that off to the ransomware operators for big bucks for them to start pilfering out.
Yeah. And
so
this is a friend of mine.
Matt has a friend here.
That X is out there. Yeah, so my friend Britton White, no face because that's his jam, but Britton actually does notifications, and he is out there trolling a lot of these places where it's being sold or where it's being demoed or actually just getting the dumps, and then he goes and tries to find out who those humans are and reaches out to them. But this is an example of a screenshot of an engineer that he got that's compromised and said, router compromised, yes, Windows 10, home. Now, right, and the point is you're digging in, and I think this person may be working for a large investment firm from what he's saying. But he does this all the time, and that's just how proliferous it is. And what's funny is the funniest one I remember of his post was he said he showed the guy's actual chat, but it was with a CISO, and he goes and he says, "Sir, I think you're compromised. I have all your passwords. I have all your information." And the guy goes, "Do you not see the S in my title, son?" Security.
Oh no.
So he was like, "I guess we're done here then. I guess have fun with your Redline malware." But anyways, the point is these info stealers are out there, and they are there to grab information. Now people might be asking in the audience, what about my anti-malware? Shouldn't it see it? Yes, those are things I would expect as info stealers are trying to launch. But we ought to move into a scenario where maybe that isn't going to play out, right? Where, maybe X, you've come up with a scenario where we wouldn't actually have anything that's malicious but still achieves the same goal, didn't you? And we'll get to that here in a bit.
I did. Great segue here. So what happens if they're not using Redline, right? Yeah, you get one a day. That's it. So they're not using Redline, right? And so what does this mean to me as a business owner, maybe an MSP? What does this mean to me? Like you said, the EDRs, that you're hoping that your automation systems will catch these red lines. And for the most part, they do. There's some tricky ways, for another time on all those ones. For the most part, I would say they do.
Another show.
Another show on that. But, what if they're not, instead of Redline, they're packaging in other tools that you may be using. And now they're trying to go after your business users right here with a Microsoft Teams download.com, which is absolutely not correct. Been taken down. Rapid7 found this one, and it kind of spurred to me as like, how possible is this? And so let's go into
and for the record, when I stand up stuff like that, X, if I don't bring it back to the Cloudflare, if I don't put it behind Cloudflare, I get a cease and desist notice in about 30-ish minutes. I mean, they're getting really good at cracking down on taking down these domains. And so the reason that Cloudflare helps a lot is it stops the bots and the crawlers from finding me quickly. And therefore, until I attack and it actually hits someone's infrastructure and they actually notify, I got a few minutes. So I actually had to start using Cloudflare reverse tunnels for that purpose, right? So
there you go. Or you just buy a VPS in the Netherlands because they don't care.
Yeah, it's very
but anyway, no more hacker tactics.
Only Don't
Yeah,
cancel our
no more
account.
hacker tactics
It's
here. Onto that one. But yes, you are correct. Yeah, and that's why I think there's been an increase in Cloudflare. And plus, also at the barrier to entry again, to get into Cloudflare's preload, you could use it gives you a lot for free. Yeah, for the most part. So here we go. Here's a scenario. We have the user here. I don't have them advertised ad because I wasn't going to do that. It's a little too far. But they could just search something either like, I need Teams now, and tech support keeps saying I need a ticket, right? And they're like, screw it, I'm just going to go do this on my own, right? Let me search this, and they'll come across the Teams installer. Out there. So they'll go ahead and launch it, right? They're like, hey, this is. I need
on
my
a virtual
Teams
machine simulating a client, just to let everybody know in the crowd. So
simulating a
all right,
client,
we got Teams.
virtual machine.
Yeah.
We're getting Teams installed. We'll go ahead and do that. We'll let it run. We'll let it finish its whole thing. I'm happy as I can.
And
be
while it's
because
doing
of this,
while it's doing that, true, like somebody might argue, well, this has system properties or local admin. First off, one should not have local admin. But in addition to that, a lot of these systems will run in user context and still provide me a very viable foothold and a very viable target to do some of these things. So just understand that just because you take away local admin rights, it doesn't mean you're completely protected from user rights. Dom, you used to play this football game a lot with trying to fight the Spotifys and the others, right?
Yeah, that damn app data folder, dude, drove me nuts.
app
And
data
user
folder,
space is a valuable
there you
space.
go. Yes, it is. So you can see I got Teams installed. I'm all happy.
Like Teams.
Yeah,
Close
like
ticket.
sweet. I'm going in. Let me sign in. Let's go. Onto this. What did I know is I actually made this installer like yesterday, real quick, just to show how low the barrier entry is to get something packaged together. I mean, this has all the AVs on from Defender and everything. I'm not blocking anything, and there's no red line going on here or anything like that. I actually packaged up, I got all the threat thing from from Windows Defender on. What's getting it past is that I actually packaged into this installer Screen Connect. And if we go look to my console here, we can see I just got you didn't even notice anything happening on this right here. And I have now a access here for this, so I can log in and do my things.
Can I make sure and ask a quick
really
clarifying question?
Yeah.
Can I ask just a little nerdy question? So you're saying the reason it got passed, even though you did not sign your installer loader, is because you had the Screen Connect installer signatures, and that's what allowed that to bypass, is because of that combination of those two things? Is that your assertion here?
Yeah, I think it's the combo of, inside my installer I made this installer, but inside of it are two signed binaries, right? Screen Connect. And
so there's nothing
Teams,
that looks
the actual
malicious
Teams
at all.
binaries inside of here. Yeah. That's all it is.
So even though you're unsigned, nothing flags. Yeah, that's my point. That's
exactly.
what I was trying to get.
I even try to put something in here to kind of make it do something and try to make a detection
like
on
a PowerShell script or something, maybe.
Yeah, like a PowerShell script in here, and it was still giving me. I couldn't get it to detect. It's kind of usually on the other way around. It's hard for me to get it to stop detecting.
Right.
I couldn't get it to detect. I was like, okay, well, it's great because I need the PowerShell alert anyways to kind of show some tactics that are with this. And so, great, we got the Screen Connect back. It worked on here. I could join it, all that fun stuff. Not going to do that right now. What I want to show is kind of like the breakdown on what this looks like, maybe more in a process view here that we could do. And so, not trying to sell the product to Blackpoint or anything. It's honestly just the tool that I have that actually shows this the easiest.
I'll make this clarification.
Tool that we use, Yeah.
The same stuff we're looking at, system process created, things, memory injections, those type of things, all that same stuff, you should be able to correlate in Sentinel-1. You should be able to correlate in whatever EDR you're using. So don't take this as a Blackpoint sale. This is a conversation around. You could take these same types of things and see this information. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is a coded PowerShell command that I put in here. I mean, there's a lot of things that will apparently.
That's just base 64, so you can actually just go break that down pretty easily. I would wager.
Missouri encryption.
You could.
Yeah, it's Missouri encryption, folks. Missouri
encryption. Yes.
Do y'all remember that? For anybody who doesn't know the joke, the governor, they prosecuted a teacher that had found a bunch of information in a website just in base 64, and they threatened to prosecute. It was a wild time. It was a good time.
It was a ridiculous couple of weeks.
That's right. I forgot about that. So it's got Missouri encryption on it with that. And you can see here, too, the breakdown of my MS Teams setup, and it has a PowerShell command here. Now, what this does, I won't decode this live because it's a little too deep into it. But what this does is it checks if the computer's on a domain or not, right? Because again, when you're doing this, you don't want to get a little bit too loud, right? I mean, we're looking for domain joined computers, right? Looking for real networks, not looking for Joe's mom that has Teams because they want to talk to her grandson.
Well, let's dig into that for a sec.
Not making much of money there.
That's the point, right? It would be looking for, at least if there's a Windows domain, there's somebody with insurability, equity, or reasons to pay me, right? Is what you're looking for in that scenario.
Well, and if you over distribute that suspicious activity, then that hash of your installer is going to start to hit signatures, right? And it's going to start to be a node file. So just in an ideal world, the way it's sold, right?
And ideally. And then also we can see here, there's Here's the MSI installation of Screen Connect after I found out that this was a target machine. And then I went ahead and put that on there, all in quiet mode, as our MSI nerds out there would know.
Very nice. Very nice.
And it installs and goes in the background, and no one's none the wiser here onto this one. So I just kind of want to show you an example of.
And it probably fires faster. I imagine it probably fires faster than the user's ability to click through the install UI of the other product, so there's no MSI collision, right? Like there's no, you already have something else being installed. You're like, no, Screen Connect's done already, homie. We're good.
You can kind of see it. It whizzes past, but you can kind of see Screen Connect real quick, and then it goes away. I mean, if someone has snake eyes into this, you might be able to. I didn't put all the obfuscation in the world onto this. Again, I did. Sometimes I found the simpler is the better. Like I remember one time I was trying to, not to go off track too much, but I remember one time I was trying to do a demo like this, and I was trying to use Covenant C2. I don't even know if that's popular anymore. And so I had this payload, and I made this loader in Golang, and it would encrypt it and retrieve the key from a Twitter message and decrypt the payload and all this stuff, and it kept getting caught. And so I was like, screw it, what if I just don't encrypt the payload, and then it just runs? And nothing caught it. I was trying way too hard. It was all
fixed.
Exactly. It was all the encryption routines and the loading and the dumping the file, and that was triggering stuff. If I just straight up just ran it, it was just like, that's fine. So it was kind of an eye-opening moment for me.
Yeah.
But I
just want to remind users that this started. This started by getting a web page, whether it be in our case we simulated it through a search, but in reality you would just have an advertisement that comes up and you're like, hey, trying to get your Teams fixed. I want all users that search for help support around Teams in the last and you could see this being a very targetable type methodology.
Absolutely.
And then now they've run it. They've got Teams fixed, or maybe not. Maybe they still have a support ticket to say, man, Teams still isn't working. We're going to have to fix it.
Teams still didn't work. I downloaded the wrong one. It's the home one.
Well, and this is the point. What is the likelihood? And I'm going to pivot you into your next slide. What is the likelihood that you as an MSP, if you're out there right now, coming in to support that ticket, we've got Sally still doesn't have Teams working. We don't know what's going on. What's the likelihood you see that there's another Screen Connect instance running there? What do y'all think? I mean, out there, what do you think that likelihood is for most people?
It's a good question.
Would you check it? I wouldn't check it. I would not be systemically going, I want to check for a Screen Connect instance today and see if someone installed it. Zero chance.
Not at all, Even if, exactly. I mean,
even
a lot
if
of
times
I use
I'm Screen Connect because I probably buy it.
I was about to say the same thing.
I don't see Screen
Even if I'm using it, I'm like, that's just someone installed the wrong installer. I don't know. Now there's two. Cool.
Yeah.
Exactly.
100%. And I'm not bashing on Screen Connect, so don't take it that way. This could be insert other remote access tool period here. It's really
I
just,
said Atera,
that
first one.
Atera
was actually the first one I've seen. So I'll be fair to all vendors. Terra was the first one I've seen that actually was more distributed out into this.
Well, actually, and this is tangential, but there was a whole freak out. Gosh, was it a year ago or so about Screen Connect and the free trials, and then everyone went after Terra for their free trial, and it doesn't matter, right? Because if there's not a free trial, I'm going to go buy a Green Dot card and pay for a month of the software to pull this off. So it doesn't.
Or break into a company and use their email address to register.
Or steal there.
Right?
Exactly.
I'll just crack somebody's company and use that. Not a problem. Or use your email to go register a free tenant as a company. Tons of ways to do
exactly.
Yeah.
Or one of those 30,000 still out there that haven't patched yet. I'll just get into there.
Ooh.
And use that.
That's a good smidge of them. You're not wrong. That's not nice. But you're not wrong. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But no, yeah, you got it. I mean, it's not their fault. And also, I have a really good, out of all this, I built a really good relationship with ConnectWise, and straight into their threat unit. I have like a direct line. If I even tell them I catch anything like that, they can shut that down so fast. They even implemented advanced checking of all these hosts. So if someone is putting like staged malware on top of there, they can detect that proactively and stop the instance. They've done a lot. So I don't want to get them in there. They've done a whole lot to remediate this. So
I just want to take a second to say that this is just because Screen Connect's
so is like TeamViewer, because TeamViewer was prolific about this for a while.
AnyDesk.
They've all been really working at this, lately at least.
All right. Well, how do we protect ourselves?
Now pivoting in here.
Here?
How do we protect ourselves from this, right? Great, cool. This is going to happen. Now I'm scared. I can't sleep tonight, right? So how do I figure out, how do I protect myself from this? So, I will say, not picking up, Screen Connect actually has an interesting ability here, is that they have IDs attached to the installs. And I found this out because, at Blackpoint, we make a managed application control product that does a little bit of like zero trust stuff on RMMs. And I was like, okay, easy, block data, block all that. Then I was like, wait, I can't block all screen. People can install 2 Screen Connects. That kind of defeats my whole RMM zero trust. You can't install like 2 datos. You can't install like 2 action ones and stuff. It just don't work. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to work around this. And it kind of got me thinking, you can check for these multiple IDs. That's just right in the folder names. You should know your own.
And and I did this, right? Like we used to have a WinSCP command that would use, an uninstall or send an uninstall command if we ever found something that was not the GUID we were looking for, the UID. I guess it's not a GUID, but UID that we're looking for. And so each of these installs has a UID, which means you can just do a scan of what's installed, SC, right? Installed in that aspect of what's installed on my machine. And then you can actually say, okay, uninstall this one, uninstall this one, uninstall this one. And so we always took action to do that and move forward. But that is the one thing that's a nice call about Screen Connect. You can actually see another instance that is not yours by UID.
And another thing to point out too, is I was having this discussion with a partner, and they said, well, I have a customer that's in whatever business, and their line of business vendor uses Screen Connect for ad hoc support. So if you do an ad hoc support session in user space, the whole go to the site, enter the code workflow, it actually behaves differently. So you wouldn't see this indicator, whether you're the Blackpoint SOC or the MSP, right? So the fact that there is a GUID and the fact that they've gone so far as to make the tool behave differently based on how it's used adds a lot of value there.
Absolutely. It's good
so
call.
And since I like to correct myself when I'm wrong, I was using WMIC, not service control. So
I was wondering.
I was just going to let you go. I was about to say
correct myself. I'm going to be that. I was like, that's not what I was using. Okay.
Well, to be correct, Matt, I'm pretty sure that in the service, it also has the GUID too. So you might actually be right.
But I was not using that method. So yeah. Anyways, I had to be correct.
Otherwise, I would have called you right out. I'm joking around.
I like to call me out before someone else does in the chat. That's my goal. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right. So the big takeaways on this is when you think about this big second point, right? So first, check for multiple points. That's our takeaway. Check for multiple Screen Connects and check for multiple different things that can install multiple times or things you're not using. Or number 2,
multiple RMMs.
If you get an alert, exactly. Well, we're going to get to that. So monitor your potentially unwanted application alerts, right? Because Screen Connect getting installed would probably pop for most AVs as at least a PUA. Wouldn't you think? X, and your thoughts? Yeah.
Yep.
So that should be at least a free detection. But these are all detection, not protection, right? We're now talking about detection, a little bit of protection in the check for multiples, but that's already after the fact. Awareness training is starting to get more into protection, right? What would you say here, X? It's important from an awareness training perspective.
So with awareness training, it goes beyond just, clicking through that annoying thing, for SOC 2. I'm just kidding around. We keep going back around to SOC 2. The awareness training, it goes beyond that. Awareness training is like a company culture thing. There's no dumb questions. You got to run it right. Someone should always be asking, should I have clicked this, or I did click this? It's okay. People click on stuff all the time. I got my World of Warcraft account hacked before because I probably clicked on something a long time ago, and I've been hacking forever.
It's a healing and safe place right now, X. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I think this was a safe space, and they didn't even grind me up and level me at all. was like,
What a
at least
jerk.
it could have got
You
me a
can't even
couple
be a grind
levels.
bot
Man.
if you're
On
gonna
the
break into
raid.
my account.
Yeah, if you're gonna do that and get me banned, you could at least like botted the raid for me a few times. But anyway.
Yeah, man, dang. All right, and then
but
to your point about
and then
culture.
forced browser security. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For culture. Sorry, man.
No, go. You're good.
No,
This is the next point I was
it's
getting
culture.
to.
I always like to drive that at Blackpoint too. There's no dumb questions. Report anything you have, and so yeah, I'll hand it over to you. What was that, Matt?
No, I was just gonna say the next piece was forcing browser security settings. Like, don't let people be able to bypass some of those warnings of hey, this cert isn't right, or if we have those type of things, download settings from untrusted sites. Like, there's a lot of things to unpack in there. And then what I wanted to bring this to next after that piece, if you'll just go to the next slide for us, X.
Oh, sorry. This is my screenshotter.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Go.
If anyone, so we have done at Blackpoint the cataloged a lot of the remote access tools and our own tools that we have seen that are used, good and bad, that you want to keep an eye out for. So if someone wants to take a little screenshot of this one, these are the kind of things you're going to want to look out for as applications that are used really more leaning towards bad or good. If I go to the remote access ones, RMM tools, they're not, but these are just ones to keep a lookout for that are out there and most popular. One I wanted to point out that is probably the most current one that we're seeing a lot is this net support rat. It's kind of buried in here a little bit. I was just talking to our threat intelligence and SOC this morning, and we just made some changes to some detections that we do for the net support rat, because it's been a big one that's been popping up a lot. And, it's just people doing net support, onto that one. It's just getting by, and we had to make a little more proactive detections on them. But yeah, so if you want to know what are the remote access tools out there, whether you're an MSP or business, this is kind of what we see out there, and the ones that are mostly abused or just kind of a catalog of them.
Well, to circle on like rats
piece,
for just a second too, that's a super prolific category of malware, right? Like, they've been around for a really long time. It's important to point out, like, the functionality of your RMM is the same exact almost functionality it has, right? One of them is a commercial product, and one of them is meant for threat actors. But understand it's the same thing, and that's why it's so important to be monitoring for it. I can just buy a tool set that looks good to everyone. And have the same functionality I would have had I used a malware payload. Right?
Absolutely, that is the takeaway. Just the visibility and the know on this, right? Some people might not even know that these are being taken advantage of. So I'm glad we can get that out there.
The other piece I want to bring up, which is, if you think about what we're actually talking about with CIS, is CIS 2.1 says know what software you have installed, right? Like, this is have a list of approved software, which means this is what is allowed to be running, not just have a list of the crap. And I'll go back to why I failed making my Eagle Scout, right? I didn't get my Eagle Scout for two reasons. One, I found girls and left. But second, when I did my budget merit badge, I turned in my budget as an exact 1-to-1 set of money that I spent that month. And they're like, that's not a budget. That's a receipt. And I'm like, no, this is a budget. I spent that much. And I think this is the same problem here. What's my asset inventory of software? I pulled everything installed on the computer. Is that an approved list of software, or is that an actual receipt of what's installed on there? And I think the point I want to make is, if you're doing an effective job as an MSP, understanding what 2.1 is, now you can do an effective job, if you'll go to the next slide, of understanding 2.3. which says address unauthorized software, stuff that is not authorized to run in your organization, which would be maybe the other Screen Connect, maybe those RMMs, maybe everything else that you're not expecting, y'all. Let's get down to this reality that we talk about zero trust. Zero trust is letting only the applications you allow to run and addressing the ones that are. So, like, we're not reinventing the wheel with these statements, and yet we often look at this in a detection method. Like, can I find when somebody got past this and installed it? We need to get better at setting it where they cannot, where you can only execute the software that is actually what you've approved to run. And if you don't know that, the one takeaway right now as an MSP, right now, write it down, this is the takeaway, is go make a freaking inventory of what software is allowed to run and dig that out and take that receipt and turn it into next month's budget, and apparently don't find girls and you'll be an Eagle Scout. At least if that's the dissertation I want people to walk away from.
That's what I learned out of this.
It was,
I'm glad. All right, I'll get off my CIS rant. But I hope in each of these episodes to break down where there are very clear paths to have done this if you're really applying these safeguards the right way. right, is my point.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I say, it's the dirty secret too. I ran a SOC for years, catch 20, 30 things a day, right? If you're sticking to good CIS compliance, even IG1, that's the easy mode, right? Onto
Which these are both IG1s.
Doing security.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both. Wait, are they? Yes, they're both IG1s. We're good.
Yeah.
And you're doing basic security defaults. I'm not kidding you. You probably decreased your attack surface by 90-some%. Like every time I catch something, I'll see like if they just did this little thing, if they just audited their firewall rules, if they just audited their software inventory, if they just had
Microsoft.
it's always
did a
those
report
kind of easy things
on those baselines. Yeah, Microsoft did a report on those baselines, and they came to 98% of attacks, which really, if you think about it, is everything except for like the committed nation state APT type players.
Right. You'll never be 100%. I've seen them all. I've seen a small CNC manufacturer get hit by the Chinese when they were like locked down tight because they had some CAD files they wanted to get. I mean, if they want to get, they'll get it,
man.
Yes, they will. Yep.
Although I did recently see an advertisement for a cyber immune device that I'm going to try so that I can be one.
Oh no, not triggering us on cyber immune. So that's it. We're not going to also beleaguer the show if we've come to a natural conclusion, but I'd like to recap just real quick what the takeaways were. So the first piece is, when you're talking about the way the shift of the world is, threat actors are starting to use tools that are not going to trigger malware as quickly. They're going to give them access, allow them to get in, get a foothold, gain escalation if you don't already have it, and then take away those tools so that I can hide, and maybe just steal your token and use it somewhere where I don't have those tools, right? And those are the things that we have to start thinking about. So the takeaway is, living off the land is a real challenge. And then the last takeaway that I want is, what do we do about it? Start by taking the actionable. That is, go and remove any other screen connects, put in methods to not let them run, or other, RATs, RMMs, applications that give people privilege and access. That'd be the first step, and I think that's what X brings to us with that screenshot that you hopefully took. If not, watch this again. It's great. Yeah. The second takeaway is that after we've done that, maybe go back to the basics and perhaps start to get a better list of what is approved software. What are the things I can do to address unauthorized software? Not just in this one method, but more than that. Like, are there systemic checks I can make? Are there systems that give me software lists? Can I go in and put blocks in? Are there tools that I can use or maybe already own that allow me to application whitelist or application allow list? I apologize. Are there things that are allowing us down that path? And so the takeaways are, getting hit in the face with your own wrench sucks and hammer sucks. And you're the one that needs to do it. There's nobody else that can. Go and trim up and clean up.
Sneak another one in on you, though. Because I did this at my MSP, or I started doing this at my MSP, and I got better sleep. And that was, I stopped using the hammer. Like, I had whole customers.
Thank you, Don.
Had no persistent access. If we needed remote support, I could walk the user through typing the little numbers. So that's another approach to think, is literally just don't have the tools on there. And if you detect any of them, you have a problem.
Yeah. It does decrease your risk a little bit,
No rock pile is the argument. No rock pile.
No rock pile.
Yeah. And it's another point too I want to put out is it's an evolving thing. Like, you think about live off the land, and you're thinking about what's built into Windows, right? Which is actually a finite list. It's not infinite, right? But it's not just it's not what's just built into Windows. It's your own. It's other tools that are coming in now that are your own tools against your own hammer. So it's evolving, and just keeping up with it can be pretty hard. So.
I'll make a prediction.
Let's make a prediction.
Since we're here. I was about to make a prediction. You go first, Dom. You go first.
So they built in this new thing into Windows, the remote help thing that you can activate with Intune. Did you know that literally anyone can do a remote help session? You can buy a Windows 10 home machine, set up a remote help session.
If you do not limit where those remote sessions can come from, because you can take in certain constraints, if I remember correctly, but again,
settings,
not secure by default.
By
default.
Not secure by default.
I'll make a prediction.
That's going to be the next tool we're talking about.
I think people will use malvertisements to abuse Windows Store and inject capabilities through Windows Store, which will definitely get through signed binary challenges.
Much like the Play Store.
I believe that's my prediction. So, X, if you see that, I'm sorry. That's on me. I made that happen right here. Or someone's already doing it, probably.
I'm too afraid to have a prediction now.
Right. Okay. No, that's probably smart if you don't bring a prediction into the play.
I'll say cloud ransomware.
It's coming, no doubt. I'm with
you
on
cloud
that.
ransomware.
Like ransoming the files as they sit past the iteration count.
Not my OneDrive and my configs.
Yeah, 100%, brother. I'm with you on that. Okay, I don't know of a better way to close this out. Dom, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
All right.
X, thank you for being here. I hope everybody liked the new format. I hope you liked the more nerdy conversation, getting more into that practitioner space and looking at it. So let us know in the comments
thanks for having me,
if you did.
Yeah, X, thanks so much. X gave it to us. It was a great show. So definitely let us know. I had to get it in. We just had to do it. Let us know what you thought of this format. Give us more ideas for topics. We have a long list of guests, but we want to keep it going. If you want to learn more about cryptography, or if you want us to drag someone in here to debate the merits of cryptocurrency, I don't know. Come up with a nerdy topic. Share it with us in the comments. We want to keep this format going. But that's our show. Before we cut out, a while back, we had Mac on the show from Blackpoint, and I think she shot a video about what it was like to be on the show and about the show itself. So if we could roll that real quick.
This hunger for education and community has created amazing sources like podcasts that have really, I've explored it myself, where I've learned that we all want to learn a little bit more, and we want to learn who's in the space that's considered an expert in that space. And I don't have a beard. I've been trying to grow a beard because I feel like all the popular people here have beards. But I will say the game is really beneficial because it's touching on really key topics in security that matter to MSPs. And it's taking it down to a level where we're not just Googling, hey, I want to know about XYZ, or, asset inventory or data classification or CIS controls, but it's taking a topic and applying it to why MSPs care about that topic, how to integrate it into their business, how to have real discussions, demystify the concepts, and then, I just love it in general to be able to have a real conversation where it's a little uncanned, but also it's what they care about. Technology vendors and companies, just give it to us for real. Give us the truth. And podcasts and webcasts like the game, like Cybercall, a lot of these are really helpful because they just want to get to the truth. We're in IT, we get it. Just give it to us straight. And that is what I've enjoyed about this community and projects like the game is they get the notoriety. A lot of people have that engagement level already, but also they just kind of give it to you straight in an interesting way.
Man, that was awesome. I didn't see that video before before the show.
Cool.
So thank you, Mac. We appreciate you. And now we're going to have you back on the show. That is our show. That is the conclusion of our first Wednesday show. Let us know what you thought. Join us next Wednesday. And I'm still going to wish you a good weekend, but it doesn't start yet. You still got work tomorrow. You still got Technically Unraveled to watch this week, but we'll see you next Wednesday.